The year is 1683. The earth itself groans under the weight of empire. From the gates of Constantinople, a shadow stretches westward, a darkness that consumes the light of Christendom city by city. It is the shadow of the Ottoman war machine, 150,000 strong, an ocean of men and steel that takes 3 hours for its columns to pass a single point. Their commander is Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa Pasha, the right hand of the Sultan, a man whose ambition is as vast as the army he leads. He has carved a path of fire and blood through the Balkans, and now his gaze fixes upon the final prize, the jewel that will crown his legacy, Vienna, the golden apple. If it falls, the heart of Europe is pierced. Germany lies open. Italy trembles. The fractured kingdoms of Christendom will shatter one by one, like glass against stone. All of Europe watches, and all of Europe does nothing. The emperor has fled his own capital. France watches from the shadows, a smile on its lips. The princes and electors are paralyzed by pride and politics. They see only their own interests. None see the abyss opening beneath their feet. But one man sees it, a warrior king from the eastern frontier, a man who has spent his life staring into the eyes of the Turk, King Jan III Sobieski of Poland. He is 60 years old, his treasury is empty, his army is small. But his faith is a fire that cannot be quenched, and he understands a truth the others have forgotten. When civilization stands at the precipice, good men do not count the cost, they pay it. This is the story of the day the world held its breath, the day a king answered the call, the day the Winged Hussars rode into legend. To understand the catastrophe of 1683, one must first feel the tremors that preceded it. For 2 centuries, the Ottoman Empire had been the relentless expanding force of the world. From the fall of Constantinople in 1453, it had moved with the inevitability of a glacier, grinding Christian kingdoms into dust. The Balkans had been submerged. The Black Sea was an Ottoman lake. The Mediterranean was a contested battleground where Ottoman galleys struck fear into the hearts of sailors from Venice to Genoa. The Sultan in Constantinople styled himself the heir to Rome, the true Caesar, and his gaze was perpetually fixed on the rich, disunited lands of the West. The man chosen to deliver this final, decisive blow was Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa Pasha. More than just a general, he was the de facto ruler of the empire, a man of immense administrative skill and even greater personal ambition. He was not a man given to outbursts or frenzy. His was a cold, calculating pride, a certainty in his own destiny that bordered on the divine. He had promised his Sultan, Muhammad IV, the head of the Holy Roman Emperor and the keys to Vienna. Failure was not an option, it was an obscenity. In his lavish command tent, which was more a portable palace than a military headquarters, he kept a single powerful symbol of his goal, a perfect gilded apple. It was a physical manifestation of the golden apple, the poetic name for Vienna, the ultimate prize of world dominion. He would often hold it, feeling its cool, metallic weight in his hand, imagining the day he would present the real city to his master. The army he assembled was a testament to Ottoman power and logistics. It was not merely a fighting force, it was a moving city. Alongside the 150,000 soldiers, janissaries with their deadly muskets and composite bows, Sipahi cavalry in their brilliant silks and mail, and a horde of irregulars from across the empire, marched tens of thousands of support personnel, engineers, carpenters, miners, and cooks, merchants hoping to profit from the plunder. Islamic holy men to bless the enterprise. The siege train was the most advanced in the world, featuring massive bronze cannons that could hurl stone balls the size of cauldrons, and specialized mortar units designed to fire incendiary shells over the city walls to start fires and spread terror. This was not an army built for a quick raid. It was an instrument of permanent conquest. As this storm gathered and began its slow, deliberate march up the Danube, the intended victim was mired in a paralysis of its own making. Vienna, the capital of the Habsburg Holy Roman Empire, was the symbolic heart of Central Europe. But its emperor, Leopold I, was a man of the palace, not the battlefield. Pale, delicate, and deeply pious in a withdrawn, scholarly way, he was utterly unprepared for the brutal reality bearing down on him. His court was a snake pit of intrigue, with various factions more concerned with jockeying for position than preparing the city's defenses. When the sheer scale of the Ottoman threat became undeniable, panic set in. In a move that would be remembered as an eternal stain on his reign, Emperor Leopold gathered his family and his most valuable treasures and fled the city. He retreated to the safety of Passau, leaving his capital to its fate. The message was catastrophic for morale. The father of the nation had abandoned his children. But in his flight, Leopold made one crucial, redeeming decision. He left the defense of Vienna in the hands of a man made of sterner stuff, Count Ernst Rudiger von Starhemberg. If Leopold was porcelain, Starhemberg was iron. A seasoned soldier, wounded in numerous campaigns against the French and the Ottomans, he was a man whose will was as unyielding as the stone of the city walls. He was not given a full garrison. He had roughly 15,000 men, a mix of professional soldiers, city militia, and any able-bodied citizen who could hold a weapon. His supplies were limited, his powder stores inadequate. He knew the mathematics of the situation was a death sentence, but he also knew that surrender was not an option. Kara Mustafa's terms were never gentle, and for a city that had defied him, the fate would be utter annihilation. Starhemberg's task was not to win, but to hold, to bleed the Ottoman host against the walls of Vienna for as long as humanly possible, in the desperate, fading hope that a relief army might, somehow, against all logic, materialize. The siege began in mid-July. The Ottomans did not launch an immediate, costly assault. Kara Mustafa, the master planner, chose the path of siegecraft. His men dug miles of trenches, zigzagging towards the city walls to protect their advance. His artillery parks opened up, a constant, thunderous bombardment that day and night chipped away at the medieval fortifications. But his most feared weapon worked in silence, deep underground. The Ottoman miners, often Serbs and other Balkans with generations of experience, began their deadly work. They dug tunnels, known as mines, beneath the bastions and walls. These they packed with black powder, and when ignited, the resulting explosions were not merely loud, they were cataclysmic. Whole sections of wall would vanish in a geyser of stone, dust, and human bodies. Inside the city, life became a slow descent into hell. Starhemberg organized the defense with ferocious efficiency. Civilians, men and women, were conscripted into work gangs, repairing breaches under fire, fighting fires started by incendiary shells, and digging their own countermines. The goal of countermining was a terrifying subterranean battle of its own. In the pitch black, airless tunnels, men would hack at each other with picks and shovels, fighting in total darkness until one side broke or the tunnel was collapsed. It was a war of moles, fought in the dirt and the dark. As July bled into August and August into September, the city's strength ebbed. Food became the currency of life. The last of the horses were slaughtered and eaten. Then the cats and dogs disappeared. People boiled leather from belts and boots to make a thin, pathetic soup. Rats, once reviled, became a prized source of protein. The streets, once vibrant, were now silent corridors of despair, the air thick with the stench of death, gunpowder, and disease. Dysentery and typhus ran rampant through the malnourished population. The very young and the very old died first, not from steel, but from hunger and sickness. Starnberg himself, wounded in an earlier explosion and racked with fever, became a spectral figure, limping along the ramparts, his presence the only thing holding the defense together. He was a living ghost, commanding an army of the dying, defending a tomb. Yet they held. Driven by Starnberg's iron will and the primal fear of what awaited them if they fell, they fought for every inch of rubble. They launched desperate sorties out of the gates to disrupt the Ottoman siege works, knowing many would not return. They fought with pikes, with muskets, with boiling oil, and with bare hands. The city was a dying beast, but its teeth were still sharp. While Vienna suffered, Khan Mustafa presided over his campaign from a place of obscene luxury. His tented city was a marvel of silk and gold thread, furnished with carpets from Persia and cushions from Damascus. He held court, receiving ambassadors and even allowing merchants to set up bazaars between the cannon emplacements. He was patient, supremely confident. He believed the city was already his. The reports from his spies and scouts about a relief army gathering to the north were dismissed with contempt. He saw the Christian princes as divided, weak, and cowardly. He could not conceive of a scenario where they would unite and challenge him. This arrogance was the crack in his armor, the fatal flaw in his perfect plan. That relief army, however, was indeed gathering. Its soul was Jan III Sobieski. From his court in Warsaw, he had watched the Ottoman advance with a clarity none in Western Europe possessed. He knew the Ottoman way of war intimately. He had fought them and their Tatar allies his entire life, from the bloody fields of Podhaiz to the great victory at Chocim. He was a soldier king, a massive, powerful man who led from the front. His face was weathered, his body scarred, but his spirit was unbroken. He saw the fall of Vienna not as a distant tragedy, but as the prelude to the destruction of his own Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. They would be next. But convincing his own nation was a battle in itself. The Commonwealth was a republic of nobles, the Szlachta, who guarded their golden liberty with a ferocity that often bordered on anarchy. The treasury was empty. The parliament, the same, was notoriously fractious and hesitant to commit to a foreign war. Many argued for a defensive posture, for fortifying their own borders. It was then that Sobieski made a decision that transcended politics. He decided to act with or without the full support of the same. He would go not as a king executing policy, but as a Christian knight answering a divine summons. He mortgaged his own personal estates and his wife's magnificent jewelry to fund the campaign. He called upon the loyalty of the one institution that could answer such a call: the Hussaria. The Winged Hussars were not merely a military unit. They were the spiritual and martial embodiment of the Polish nobility. Each hussar was a nobleman, a landowner, who equipped himself and his retinue at colossal personal expense. His armor was a masterpiece of Polish smithing, a gleaming suit of steel that could turn a musket ball. His primary weapon was the kopia, an 18-foot lance of hollowed-out wood, light enough to be wielded with one hand, yet devastating upon impact. But their true weapon was psychological. The wings. Great wooden arcs fitted with eagle, swan, or goose feathers mounted on their backs. In a charge, the wind would stream through these feathers, creating an unearthly, whistling roar that preceded them like the sound of avenging angels. They were the last kingdom knights of Europe, and they were riding to their most famous battle. Sobieski's force was small, perhaps 15,000 Poles, including only 3,000 of the legendary Hussari. But he was not alone. In the German states, a flicker of conscience and self-preservation had stirred. Charles V, Duke of Lorraine, a capable and respected imperial commander, had managed to scrape together a force of 20,000 Austrians and Germans from the various principalities that had finally grasped the gravity of the situation. Saxony, Bavaria, Franconia, they contributed what men they could spare. The total relief force would number around 70,000, a significant army, but still dwarfed by the Ottoman host. The march south was an epic in itself. Sobieski drove his men over 500 miles, across the Carpathian Mountains, through summer storms that turned roads into rivers of mud. It was one of the longest and fastest forced marches in military history. They covered up to 50 miles a day, men and horses pushed to the absolute limit of human endurance. The goal was not just to reach Vienna, but to reach it in time. The constant, unspoken question was whether they would find a city or a smoking ruin. By early September, the two armies had linked up at Tulln, north of Vienna. The command structure was a delicate matter of pride. The German princes naturally looked to Duke Charles of Lorraine, one of their own, but there was no denying the aura of Sobieski. He was the senior king, the most experienced commander, and the man with the most powerful decisive force, the Hussars. In a tense war council, he was given overall command. It was a decision that would save Europe. On September 11th, the relief army began its final advance, moving through the thick wooded slopes of the Vienna woods. They emerged on the morning of September 12th on the summit of the Kahlenberg mountain. The sight that unfolded below them was one to steal the breath and wither the soul. The Ottoman camp stretched for miles, a vibrant, chaotic, and immensely powerful spectacle. 80,000 men were arrayed in a vast semicircle around the beleaguered city. The smoke from countless campfires and the still burning city hung in the air. The banners of the Sultan were like a field of crimson flowers. Between them and the city lay open ground, crisscrossed with Ottoman trenches and fortified positions. It was a killing field. Sobieski's plan was one of breathtaking audacity. He would not engage in a piecemeal battle of attrition. He would deliver one single, overwhelming hammer blow. The Allied forces were arranged in a massive line across the hills. On the left were the Imperial troops under Duke Charles. In the center were the other German contingents, and on the right, the place of honor and the point of the spear were the Poles, with the Winged Hussars held in reserve. The plan was for the left and center to engage the Ottomans, fixing them in place and slowly driving them back, like a door swinging open. Then, when the Ottoman forces were fully committed and their lines were stretched, the Polish right wing, led by the Hussars, would slam into them like a divine hammer. The battle began in the early morning. The Imperial and German troops advanced down the slopes, engaging the Ottoman lines in fierce, bloody fighting. The Ottomans, now aware of the threat, fought with their customary discipline and ferocity. The Janissaries stood firm, their musket volleys tearing holes in the Christian lines. For hours, the battle raged back and forth. It was a brutal, grinding affair of push and counterpush. From the walls of Vienna, the defenders watched, their hearts in their throats. They could see the Christian banners moving, but the Ottoman line was bending, not breaking. The relief army was being bled white on the slopes. hope began to fade once more. From his command post on the Kahlenberg, Sobieski watched the battle unfold with a calm intensity. He was waiting for the perfect moment. He saw the Ottoman commander Kara Mustafa had made a critical error. In his confidence, he had not redeployed his best troops to face the new threat from the hills. His elite units were still concentrated in the siege lines facing the city, their backs to the relief army. The Ottoman line was, in effect, off balance. As the afternoon sun climbed towards its zenith, the moment arrived. The left and center had done their job. The Ottoman line was fully committed, its reserves committed. The door was open. Sobieski turned to his aides. His face was a mask of serene determination. "Now," he said, "it is our time." What happened next would become the stuff of legend. On the Polish right wing, the 3,000 Winged Hussars began to form up. It was a sight that stirred the hearts of every Allied soldier who saw it. The knights checked their armor, tightened the girths on their powerful horses, and lowered their visors. The great wings were secured, creating a forest of feathers that shimmered in the sun. They formed into a massive, deep wedge, the classic formation designed to smash through any line. King Sobieski positioned himself at the very tip of the wedge. He would lead the charge himself. He raised his saber. A silence fell over the Polish lines, a silence filled only with the distant din of battle and the whisper of the wind through the wings. Then the saber swept down. The charge began not as a gallop, but as a walk, a slow, deliberate buildup of momentum. The ground began to tremble. Then a trot, then a canter. The sound of the hooves was a gathering drumbeat. And then, as they reached the downward slope, they broke into a full, earth-shattering gallop. The wind caught the wings, and the air was filled with that infamous, hellish roar, the sound of 1,000 eagles screaming in dive. It was the sound of thunder given form. The sight of this avalanche of steel and feathers crashing down the hill was too much for the Ottoman units in their path. The initial cavalry sent to intercept them were simply vaporized. The Polish wedge hit them with the force of a tidal wave. Lances shattered, driving through men and horses with horrific force. The Hussars did not slow. They discarded broken lances, drew their long curved sabers, and kept moving, a relentless, grinding machine of death. Panic is a contagion, and it now exploded through the Ottoman ranks. The sight of their finest cavalry being annihilated, the unearthly sound, the sheer, unstoppable momentum of the charge, it broke their will. The cry, "Allah, Allah," was replaced by screams of sheer terror. The disciplined formations of the Janissaries, the backbone of the army, began to waver. They tried to form defensive squares, but the Hussars, supported by Polish and German cavalry, rode them down. The entire Ottoman line began to collapse, not in an orderly retreat, but in a rout of historic proportions. King Sobieski was a giant in the fray, his saber a blur. He led from the front, a king acting as a common soldier, because that is what the moment demanded. His sons fought beside him, their own swords red with the evidence of their courage. The charge lost no momentum. It drove straight through the Ottoman camp, a scythe cutting through wheat, its target the very heart of the enemy command. In his silk pavilion, Kara Mustafa heard the thunder. He rushed out to see his invincible army disintegrating. The nightmare was real. The winged devils were everywhere, and they were coming for him. For a long moment he stood frozen, the gilded apple of his ambition feeling like a lead weight in his hand. Then, his pride shattered, he made the decision that would seal his fate. He turned and fled. He abandoned his treasure, his personal standard, the sacred green banner of the prophet, and his golden stirrup. He ran for his life, leaving everything behind. The battle was over. The siege was broken. The Ottoman host, the most powerful army in the world, was shattered, its survivors scattering in a desperate, chaotic flight south, pursued by vengeful Christian cavalry. The camp, a city of unimaginable wealth, was plundered by the victorious soldiers, but the greatest prize was the city itself. As the sun set, King Jan III Sobieski rode through the broken gates of Vienna. He was covered in the grime, sweat, and blood of battle, exhausted to his very soul. The people of the city, emaciated ghosts, lined the streets. They did not cheer, they wept. They reached out to touch his horse, his boots, as if he were a relic. They fell to their knees, sobbing prayers of thanks. He was not a man to them, he was an archangel made flesh. He rode to the great St. Stephen's Cathedral, the heart of the city he had saved. He dismounted, his body aching with a fatigue he had never known. He walked into the darkened church, the scent of incense and death still hanging in the air. He knelt before the high altar, and in the silence he spoke the words that would echo through the centuries, a testament to where he believed the true victory had come from. Veni, vidi, Deus vicit. I came, I saw, God conquered. The victory at Vienna did not just save a city, it broke the spell of Ottoman invincibility. It was the decisive turning point in a 300-year struggle. In the years that followed, the Habsburgs would go on the offensive, gradually reconquering Hungary and rolling back the Ottoman frontier. The empire that had once threatened to consume Europe was now in a long, slow decline. The Battle of Vienna ensured that the heart of the continent would remain Christian and free. It was the day the tide of history turned, and the sound that turned it was the thunder of wings, the faith of a king, and the courage of men who refused to let the darkness win. This story is not just a memory, it is a warning that echoes through the ages. Civilization is a fragile flame, and darkness always gathers at the gates. The courage of one man, the unity of a few can change the destiny of the world. If you believe in preserving these epic stories, in remembering the sacrifices that forged our present, then your place is with us. Subscribe to this channel, ring the bell, and become a guardian of history. Share this story so that the next generation will never forget the sound of the thunder and the price that was paid for the dawn. Join us now.